Very good evening. It's Friday night. It's after 7, of course, and you are tuned to the football pitch live on YouTube, as always, on a Friday evening. With myself, Cammy McDonald, and just Dennis Newell tonight. Just the two of us. We'll be looking back at the fixtures last weekend. Obviously, Scottish League fixtures, English League fixtures. The Premier Trophy final between St Mirren and Celtic. We'll cast our eye over that. We'll wonder what the hell Wilfred Nancy's geography is like. We'll also talk about that. And we will speculate just how much longer Nancy has in the job. But first of all, go ahead, like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your pals, jump on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. It does help us out a hell of a lot. Dennis, good evening to you. How are we tonight, mate?
Good evening, Cammy. How are you?
Not bad at all, not bad. You all set for next week?
Yeah, quiet. Just quiet, you know. It'll soon come and go, and yeah, be okay. A few days off. Quite happy with that.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's a long weekend, obviously. For some of us, it's just a Thursday, Friday, then the Saturday, Sunday, back to work Monday, and then again the same the following week, you know. So, yeah, should be it's always a nice time of year, as you say, a wee bit of time off work, a couple of extra days break. And yeah, all looking forward to that. So, yeah, I'm sure you'll enjoy the time off in the festive period.
Yeah.
One person who won't enjoy
fairly mild. Fairly mild anyway.
Aye.
It's fairly mild anyway, but obviously a bit wet, but it's no bit of snow yet. So we'll see if anything happens. But,
no, I was out my walk, and had it not been for the rain, I could probably just get away with a t-shirt, you know. So
aye, it's decent.
You know, it's not the worst weather we've had this time of year. But as I was starting to say, there one person who won't enjoy the festive period, I don't think, is indeed Wilfred Nancy or whatever he is. You know what I mean? Over at Celtic Park, new Celtic manager. He's been in the job for a couple of weeks. He's had 4 games in charge, and Celtic have managed to lose all 4 of them, including last weekend's Premier Sports Trophy, League Cup final, whatever you want to call it. We did sit here last week, and indeed we had Graham Duffy on, and Graham had said Celtic are poor from set pieces. He must have been sitting there with his crystal balls on the table in front of him, you know, because sure it was. Celtic's lost a goal for a set piece. They managed to get their way back into it. But St Mirren running out worthy 3-1 victors and lifting the first trophy of the season. You've sat here several times and wondered why Stevie Robinson hasn't been offered either of the Old Firm jobs. It's becoming even more apparent that he is ready for one of these big jobs in Scotland.
I've been saying that since we started on here, Cammy. Then the question is, why is Scottish managers not being given the opportunity? And I've actually mentioned Stephen Robinson as an example, and it's proven there on Sunday that he's got the capabilities. When you've got a guy that doesn't know that Scotland is no part of England, when he was thinking about Carlisle, he made a comment in relation to that, which I've just put up. He almost signed with Carlisle during my playing days. I know precisely where I stand. This is Scottish football. It's a physical game. I don't know what that statement was meant to be honest, but it's like everything else. When you're struggling, everyone will pick up on everything that you say that's an error. You know, like his wee draft board when he was out for tactics and stuff, which we've never seen again. So I'm puzzled by this appointment more than anything else, because hindsight, we always say, is a great thing. But I don't think that the board of directors at Celtic have got that. I mean, I've hammered Rangers for their inadequacies of appointing players, managers, and Celtic are just as bad. And you wonder, is there something in the air that's created this monster? You look at it and you say to yourself, Paul Tisdale, who has actually played football with some English teams, right? Not at the highest level, but he's played football. So he knows what a requirement is as far as a manager or players. Now, he's come in there, and I think he's the guy that's promoted for Nancy to come in here. Now, as a board, We've seen Lawwell going out the door this week. And to me, I just think that's a wee bit papering over the cracks, because the guy is a wealthy man, and they've probably just said, look, we need to do something here. Otherwise, these supporters are going to be worse. He's had dogs abuse from supporters, which I think is shocking. But as a club, they've acted and let a guy leave, right? If he was worth his salt, he would have stayed. But we don't know what kind of abuse he's been getting to him and his family, which is not acceptable. But when you go back to the board of directors, I said after Rangers get rid of two of their disasters, it would only be a couple of weeks and Celtic would need to respond. But they've responded. And I look at it and think, well, the guy is a wealthy, wealthy man. He doesn't need the hassle. But is it just papering over the cracks for where the real people should go? The faceless people you see sitting in the director's box who have sanctioned signings of 8 million, 9 million player, 11 million pounds. And I just don't accept that as being correct. It's not their money, and they should really be held accountable for the bad signings that they've got. Ingles, 11 million pound. The guy can't even take a corner, right? Crusty can only play if there's a decent player beside him. Totally out of his depth. But just going back to, obviously, Nancy, which you've said, and I try to figure this one out. It is what it is, and Celtic have appointed him when, in actual fact, as I said, hindsight would be a great thing to say, we'll just keep Martin O'Neill. In a business, you would never actually get rid of a director or somebody at the top of the tree or any level, really, and without some sort of a oversee of the job. And it would be perfect for Martin O'Neill to stay. I'll stay here to Christmas till we get the League Cup out the road, and you come in beside me. I'm not threatening your job, but let's see how it runs. And then he can take over the helm slowly, build up, see what it's like. Let him go away and watch some Scottish games. Let him know that Carlisle's known Scotland, and be in a position that he's got a feel for what the club's actually about as well. Instead of throwing in the deep end, assuming he's going to hit the ground running, not with the players he's got. And it's not a matter of feeling sorry in any way. He's took a job and he's changed things which he thought was going to do a job. He probably knew absolutely nothing in relation to where Dens Park was or where St Mirren play or where they're from. He wouldn't have a clue with that. So what chance has he got of how other players in these particular teams play? And what's he going to bring to the party? That's the worrying part. So his tactics up to now have not been very good. And then I look at the other side of the coin and I say, well, what's he left to work with? Now, I went through that team after Wednesday night's game, and I thought the starter, let's say the 11, whether the start or finish, there was only 5 in that team that I personally, well, in my opinion here, that I would have kept. I looked at the bench, and there's nothing on the bench. So a full squad that he's going to have to select from, he's got 5 players in my mind that can be good enough to maybe push forward and actually add some value to Celtic to make them win the league against Hearts, because they're the main players in it. And I'm thinking, you've got a major, major uphill struggle with this. Now, would Martin O'Neill have made much difference? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I'll tell you what, it would have been a better option to do, as I said a couple of minutes ago, was to keep him there and let the two of them work together. It's both in the best interest of the club. Instead of that, let Martin O'Neill go away. He comes in, tries to hit the ground running, total shambles. His team is worse than Rangers at times. I say at times because Rangers at this moment in time are not much better. If anything, they are worse. So, where does it go from here? And I think that's really what you were meaning, Cammy. From this point, they need to sit there and see you're only a few weeks away from the January window. Now, he must have been brought in with players in mind that would strengthen that Celtic team. If not, they have made an absolute blunder, and a big blunder that he should never have been in the position to start with. So personally, and Celtic supporters are actually saying, if we lose another one, the title race is lost. I could agree, but at the same time, January is only around the corner. And the first couple of weeks in January, he's got to make some really strong signings that are going to improve that team. If he doesn't, he'll not see the end of January in my eyes. I mean, that's if he sees the end of December. But what do? You bring a guy in and he's got rubbish to work with. Cammy, I've been through that at East Stirling when I managed. The first thing I'd done, or as soon as the season finished, there was 13 players left the club simply because they were never going to take you to the next level or improve it, that the team was going to go on. The problem I had was you don't entice anybody to come and play for £10 a week. So you weren't getting the particular players that would really elevate you to the next level. You just made sure that they were better than what was leaving. Whereas Celtic and Rangers have got more than enough money to be competing in the Premier League and to challenge each other for the top flight or the top spot. So, it's not easy, and they've got a hard shift in front of them. And you've just put up the league there, Cammy, so you can see just where it is at this moment in time. And again, we've not got to take away from Hearts. Hearts at this moment in time are flying, but the old firm's actually lying down to them, to be honest.
Yeah. Hang on a second. I'm just removing that. When you go, keep going.
No, I think I've rattled my gums enough about where Celtic are with this, but the board of directors have got to take some more responsibility in this. And I'll repeat again, if they're keeping them, they really need to have big signings in January and spend a good bit of money. And that's the worrying part, because the big lad up front is absolutely murder. He's been injured, and it's probably the best thing that could happen to him. I don't mean being hurt, but he's not added any value. The boy Kenny had 4 opportunities in the first half that I would have seen probably a second division player would have finished him. And he's very light. He was at fault for Dundee United's goal because his attempt to go and cut it out was absolutely appalling. So they've got nothing up front. They haven't even got a centre forward that you could say should be playing in the Premier League. So things like that have really got to be addressed, and they've got to take responsibility of it. If they don't come out at the other end of this with a successful signings in January, I think there should be a clear out at board level along with the management. There really has to be some kind of move, because the supporters are really frustrated with it. And the quality, to be honest, is shocking. It really is. I mean, it's so hard to watch. It's frightening.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, when we look at, obviously, there's a proper league table. When we look at last weekend, and let's take the League Cup final first of all. And listen, credit to St Mirren. St Mirren were absolutely outstanding last Sunday. They fully deserved their victory. And taking nothing away from that. They got their tactics spot on, as we say, set pieces. They threatened Celtic all day. And as I say, I think that the manager has to be questioned for that. A lack of tactics, a lack of ability, a lack of knowledge, I think, of obviously what he was up against. I think that was blatantly apparent, and as we say, full credit to Stephen Robinson, because he set his team out to take advantage of Celtic's weaknesses. As Graham Duthie said last week, the 2 league games against St Mirren, when it had been Brendan Rodgers and indeed I think Martin O'Neill in charge, Celtic were very, very fortunate to take 6 points for these games. They went to the wire. And as I say, Celtic were extremely fortunate. But last weekend, in that Premier Trophy final, or League Cup final, whatever you want to call it, St Mirren, Stephen Robertson showed his tactical awareness, showed his ability as a manager, showed his knowledge of the strength that St Mirren had over a Celtic side who at times looked out of their depth, looked, and that's absolutely crazy. And that must be shameful for Celtic supporters to watch St Mirren's side, a side assembled for a fraction of the Celtic side had cost. They were embarrassed last Sunday. And as I say, St Mirren were well worthy of their victory. So taking nothing away from St Mirren and what they achieved last week, it does leave Nancy Celtic in a very, very precarious position when it comes to what they've done in these 2 league games in charge, and obviously the European match as well. Against Hearts, they were overmatched. Hearts came out and yes, Celtic looked okay in the first half, but Hearts turned things around in the second half, and again ran out worthy winners. And for me, that was the same on Wednesday night. Now, I'd stuck a few quid on Dundee United. One of the guys in my work had told me that at one time Dundee United were 5-1, 13-2 even, I think, at one in some bookies. You know, so I stuck a few quid on Dundee United to get the victory the other night. So thanks very much for that one. But Celtic were all over them in the first half, you know, and they looked so strong. They looked as though they were going to run away with that game. But Dundee United, Jim Goodwin changed things around, switched his tactics a wee bit. And I think that's possibly where the Celtic fans can have a bit of concern about Nancy, is that his inability to switch things up, you know, to change tactics around when things aren't working. That's what they've got to be concerned about in the 3 games against Scottish opposition, against Hearts, against St Mirren, and the other night against Dundee United. Mm-hmm. You know, that really, to me, is what puts the manager's position into question, is the fact that in 4 games, he looked seriously out his depth, Dennis.
Yeah, he does, but remember, I'll repeat again, and you can always say then, well, Martin O'Neill didn't have the problem. Martin O'Neill played it safe in a lot of ways, but for some unknown reason, Martin O'Neill maybe had the golden touch that the team looked better. I don't know why. I just think maybe he shored it up a bit better. Nancy goes with 3 at the back. His kidneys still on, because what you're looking at is Scales, Trusty, Ralston at the back. And if you put the 4th one in there, you've got another left back that basically is not hitting the form since he come back from Arsenal. And I just look at it and I go to myself, what has happened with the defence? What's happened to it? Carter Vickers out of the team, massive blow.
He's a big miss.
Tierney, not the same player that he was when he left Arsenal. I always think he's maybe just no fit, because he was absolutely magnificent, and he still does. He's been doing well with Scotland, but for some unknown reason, he's not setting the heather on fire with Celtic at this moment in time. The back 4, no matter what formation they actually, or what personnel is there, just seems to be ragged, absolutely ragged. And I certainly wouldn't like playing in a team with Scales near me. I just think he adds no value to the team. Absolutely none. And if you watch him close, he's a total bomb scare when it comes to defending, especially balls into the box. I kind of get it. There's got to be at both camps, Celtic and Rangers, and I've said this the last couple of weeks, youth players that should be given the opportunity. I don't care if they don't match up to it. It's better than embarrassing supporters there when you have signed a guy that's cost £9 million or £11 million, and they're not doing the job.
Yeah.
And you know, you've got to just put your hands up and say, wait a minute, we made a mistake here. Now, this is only coming to light now. Celtic and Rangers have bought, I'll use the word duds. It's unfair to say that. For Celtic and Rangers, they're duds. For other levels of football, they are decent probably, right? So we'll use the word duds lightly, because they're no duds. They're just not up to the mark of what's required to get Celtic and Rangers in a decent run in Europe, right? They've spent money after money, and if you really started to go and dissect the last 3 years of how many players have come in, cost a lot of money and went out the door under the radar. Now, Celtic have maybe been certainly more successful than Rangers, but they've let players go that they shouldn't have just for the greed of the money. They're in a tight spot, because if you're looking at Kyogo, centre forward, scores goals for fun, right? I bet you they wish he was back here instead of getting the 10, 12 million pound, whatever they got for him. That wee guy was a goal scorer, right? Doesn't matter what age he is, and they wanted the money. That's shortchanging the supporters. And I've said this many a year now. The Celtic directors shortchange the supporters every season, because they'll not spend the money and keep players to make the club progress on the park. And that's what people are paying their season ticket money for. They want to see entertainment. Not see a guy going out the door and getting 15 million. How long does that last when your team is actually falling apart?
Yeah.
Again, I'm back to the board of directors looking at how they spend the money. And that's the problem. The money has not been spent well, and that really needs addressed. But we go back to maybe the question you're maybe looking at, Cammy, is, does the manager get shown the door if he loses against Aberdeen at the weekend, or do they keep him? There's a question everybody will be thinking and asking. And I've tried to explain, the board of directors are accountable for giving them the job. Who's going to take over? Do they go and chat Martin O'Neill's door after the weekend if Aberdeen turn them over? Come back in again? That's a right custard pie. So they're in a tight spot. If they don't win on Sunday, I think they've just got to bite the bullet and give him the opportunity, if they think he's that good, to get signings in January. And come the end of January, which you won't get if they've not done anything immediately in January, he'll never see the end of January. Personally, I don't think he will. I actually thought against Dundee United, there was no way in this planet they should have lost that game. And before we come on, I said to you, if the 11 Dundee United players were in green and white, would they have been any better? I don't think so. Dundee United looked very, very poor. They man for man, I thought they were poorer than Celtic, but they still managed to beat Celtic. And that's the whole thing. That the old firm used to be that no matter how bad they played, they got points. Celtic and Rangers can't do that now.
Oh.
And that's where other teams are having a go at them. And you say St Mirren is an example. I'm just looking at the league now. The last half dozen games, Stephen Robinson's only won the last match. Before that was a draw, then 3 defeats and a draw. Now, he's not had a great run yet. In a cup final, he can turn Celtic over as if they just weren't there.
Yeah.
And I said last week, it was depending on how Celtic turned up. If they turned up the way they'd done against Hearts and managed to score a couple of goals the week before that, then I did feel St Mirren would have a tough time. They never turned up. They just didn't turn up. St Mirren went out there as, I'm thinking, all the clubs in the Premier League will now look at the old firm and go, we can turn them over.
I scare them.
Whereas before, you had that fear factor with all the managers, want to go there, close the shop at the back, don't let them run through you. And there's still Rangers and Celtic used to run through teams. Their days are gone. Everybody's having a go now, which is good for the clubs like Motherwell and St Mirren and all the rest of them. I think it's good. But we're not seeing a good product from Celtic and Rangers. And that's what I have against it. The product's rotten from them. And they've spent a fortune. And that's where we keep going back to and saying, how do you progress it? Is it a knee-jerk reaction with Nancy? This moment in time, I don't know the answer to that. But my own personal opinion is, who's going to come in if they don't win on Sunday? That's a problem.
I'm sitting here thinking, there's absolutely no way that board of directors can turn around and admit less than 20 days into an appointment that they've cocked up big style. Rangers obviously didn't do it with Russell Martin.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking there's absolutely no way Celtic board of directors, who appear to be a bit amiss of a leader, with Lowell stepping aside, they seem to be. There's something obviously all right at Celtic Park as well, And I don't think a board of directors can turn around and say, listen, we've made an absolute howling whatever of this, so soon into his reign. But you take the flip side, 5 defeats on the bounce as Celtic manager, to lose your first 5 games, not to win your first any of your first 5 games, if we say they maybe take a point against Aberdeen, they then say, how can they possibly keep him in a job? So it's one of these ones. I think that it's a really, really difficult one for the Celtic board to actually swing either way, So, and I mean, when you look at that league table just now, I don't necessarily know what Celtic fans would be more frightened of. The fact that they're 6 points adrift of Hearts, or the fact that Rangers are actually only 3 points behind them.
Yes.
When you look at that league table, that's the thing. Rangers have been absolutely red rotten all season. I think Danny Rowles, he's done something. He's galvanised that Rangers side, and we know. Listen, he's working with garbage. He's having to polish turds every week before he goes on. Because that's obviously what he's working with.
But they're not playing any better.
But they're getting results. That's
Correct.
the thing.
I said that 10 minutes ago. That's
different.
what the game is. The Old Firm could play garbage and get results. That's the difference now. Celtic have fallen into that trap that I always think, well, they play to 95 minutes or 96, whatever it takes, and they'll turn up and they'll get victories on the back of a poor performance. Rangers are maybe grinding it out a wee bit better, but it's still the same rubbish. I mean, up front, the boy, if you just drift to Rangers, they've got probably one of the worst strikers I've ever seen in my lifetime playing up front.
Aye.
I mean, £8 million, again, is beyond belief that actually somebody could identify him and say, we will pay £8 million for a guy that's not scored in 2.5 years. I just can't understand the way that these people at the top of the tree in football are dealing with things. It really is. It's, as you say, unbelievable. The Celtic thing, though, I sometimes think maybe the directors need this shake-up because they've had it rosy for so long. Rangers have always been in a poor man's world for the last wee while financially. Celtic have been coining it in, and look at where they are now. As you rightly say, there's only 3 points of difference. And you say to yourself, how embarrassing is that? Oh, aye, we've got it under the bed. There's about 40 million, 60 million under there, but it's not been used properly.
That's it. That biscuit tin's starting to overflow. That's the thing, you know. And I mean, I think the difference between the two sides is give Danny Rowles a player or two. I think you maybe see a different Rangers. You know, I think that's the difference between him and the previous manager, and I think that's the difference between him and Nancy. You know, I think he's not been able to come in and hit the ground running, if you like, you know, but I think that's down to the standard of player they have at Ibrox. You know, he's working with, as I say, duds. He really is working with duds. And as I say, in this January transfer window, if the Rangers board do turn round and say, right, okay, let's see who we can ship out. We're going to take massive losses on a lot of them, but let's see, more importantly, who we can bring in. If we can bring in 3 or 4 players that Rowles can integrate into that squad, into that starting 11, I think Rangers could actually push Celtic and push Hearts a wee bit closer than what they are just now, because I think Rowles definitely has the making of a decent manager, you know, because he is making the best of a really, really, really bad outfit, you know. But moving away, you know, let's look at last weekend's results. Obviously, it is only the two of us tonight, you know, and it's nearly Christmas, so let's fly through and we look at last weekend's results. Hearts obviously came through here, you know, and beat Falkirk 2-0. You Dundee United 0 each with Motherwell, and Livingston 2, Dundee 2. That was the results on the Saturday. On the Sunday, a resurgent Aberdeen side beat Kilmarnock 2-1. Obviously, we've already discussed St Mirren and Celtic in the Premier Trophy final. And then on the Monday, Rangers again probably outplayed by Hibernian, but they've managed to squeak a 1-0 victory. And as we say, that 1-0 victory, Dennis, has them only 3 points behind Celtic, you know. And as I say, I think you're going to have Celtic fans looking over their shoulders if results go the right way.
Yeah. And the plus I've maybe got there is, and this is where you're talking about the manager maybe turning the corner a wee bit with Rangers. For me, the jury's still out until, again, the January window. I'm putting a lot of emphasis on this for the two managers, right? The fact of the matter is they have inherited very, very poor players for the standard that's required for Celtic and Rangers. So let's assume that the both of them are here in January. Let's see what they're capable of doing. But here's a big test. Hearts have got Rangers at the weekend, right?
Yeah.
And I say to myself, and I've said it all along, I think Hearts just need to go over the finishing line, even although it's a million mile away. But at the same time, this is a real test for them. If they can beat Rangers at the weekend, I would say they're home and dry, because they will then have so much confidence, they'll run over the top of everybody else in.
Yeah.
And they look a good outfit from back to front. I think they are well managed. Not the biggest fan of Derek McInnes, as you know, over the years, because I just felt sometimes maybe was it the wrong team. poor players. He's now got it in his grasp with good players. He's got them playing really well, and that's brilliant. I love to see people just moving on, even though you might think over the years he's not done that well. If they can beat Rangers at the weekend, I think Hearts truly deserve to go on and win the league, because I don't think Celtic and Rangers will get anywhere near them, even if they do strengthen it in January, because Hearts will not sit there. I think they'll bring in a couple of players as well.
Hearts are going to strengthen, and that's the thing, Hearts are in a position with Tony Bloom where they can strengthen. They've done the analytics, and I think, by the way, apparently that's what Celtic are looking at this Nancy for, is in terms of his ability with analytics. Well, he's not been able to analyse anything so far, but we can only see how that goes. If we look at the weekend's fixtures, Dennis, as I say, I've got them up there. Saturday games: Dundee United against Hibs, Killie against Falkirk, Motherwell against Dundee, and as we say, the Premier Sports Trophy champions St Mirren taking on Livingston. And then on the Sunday, as we say, I don't necessarily think these times are right, but never mind. We've got Hearts against Rangers live on.
Yeah, Celtic are playing Aberdeen at 3:00.
Aye, so as I say, the
13th last one, Hearts Rangers. Yeah.
So Hearts could go into that game several points in front if they can manage to beat Rangers. Sorry, when Celtic go into the game, they could be 9 points behind Celtic again. 9 points behind Hearts. Jesus Christ, Cammy, what the hell are you doing here? When
Celtic would be 9 points behind.
9 points behind Hearts.
Yeah.
Or indeed they could be level with points on Rangers.
See, I'll tell you what though, if you just look at the stats and the league, etc., it's a really tight league. But what we're looking for is quality football. And I think if you start to find it that tight, then the standard for Hearts will have dropped, and Rangers have managed to overcome them with the same poor players that they had the week before. And that's the whole argument we've got. Is Hearts got the ability to prove to everyone that's standing up and giving them all the plaudits of the day, have they got what it really takes to keep continuing to batter Celtic and Rangers? And I think they have got the quality, because it's the poorest Celtic and Rangers teams that we have seen for my lifetime. So they've really got to stand up as well. Otherwise, they're going to fall back into the trap of people starting to question it. I don't think they will, though. But that'll be a great game, to be honest. Especially if you're a Hearts supporter at this moment in time at Tynecastle. It's a great stadium, and everything's that close to the match. And that'll be a good one. That'll be a good one. But there's other good fixtures as well, Cammy, coming up when we look at the following week, and then you're into Tuesday, the 30th, the 27th. We've got other games, which is following Saturday, which we're not obviously here then. And you've got Hibs and Hearts, brilliant. Dundee Falkirk, another tight one. You've Livingston Celtic, which should be tight, could be tight if they don't change, because Livingston's fighting for their lives. And Celtic, if they have a go at them, that would be a real banana skin. Another tight match after that is Rangers and Motherwell. And then a right good game. You see what St Mirren's going to be doing with the rest of their season as they're playing Kilmarnock. I don't know where Stuart Kettlewell's obviously left them at the start of the week. And then you've got Aberdeen, I've got Dundee United. So Saturday 27th, there's a lot to play for. And then obviously 3 days later, you've got Dundee Kilmarnock, Hibs Aberdeen, Livingston Dundee United, Rangers St Mirren, and Motherwell Celtic. Good games. So there's a lot between now and the end of the year that there could be gaps in that league, and Celtic could be worse and Rangers could be even worse. And we just need to wait and see if Hearts can keep it going.
Yeah, as we say, it'll be interesting for us when we come back. Obviously, as we say, we're taking a couple of weeks of so our first the first proper Friday, if you like, after the festive period in January, which I think will be something 10th or something, isn't it? Something along the lines. Yeah. If we look at Championship fixtures, Dennis, Airdrie against Queen's Park, Dunfermline against Ayr United, Partick Thistle against Raith Rovers, a resurgent Raith Rovers who nice 6-0 victory last week under Dougie Imrie and obviously Andy Millen, friend of the show, which was the nail in the coffin of Tony Dock up at Ross County. So Tony Dock gets sacked for the second time this year. Ross County taking on Arbroath. that job's ready made for Kettlewell, I would assume. And St Johnstone, game I'll be at tomorrow, St Johnstone against Greenock Morton. I'm taking a wee trip up to Perth tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that one. Then we move into League One. We've got East Fife against Peterhead, Hamilton against Alloa, Kelty Hearts against Cove, Queen of the South against Montrose, and Stenhousemuir taking on Cally Thistle. You could have seen Cally Thistle and Ross County swapping spots at the end of the season, couldn't you? You know, and moving into League Two, last week's big winners, Clyde taking on Stirling Albion, with a chance to actually move into the top two. East Kilbride against Annan Athletic, Forfar against Edinburgh City, Stranraer against Dumbarton, and the Spartans, still leading that league, they take on Elgin City. So again, a couple of good games there. My lads are going obviously to the Clyde game tomorrow. I dropped them off at the game last week through in Edinburgh. They thoroughly enjoyed it, you know. I think the weather conditions, obviously, so it was a wee bit blustery and windy last week, but Clyde again running out good winners. And anybody who can go to Meadowbank and get a 4-1 away win, I think Clyde are going to be pushing certainly for playoffs at the very minimum this season. So yeah, good things happening at New Douglas Park.
It's probably the fact that you don't go and watch them very often now that they're doing well.
Well, that's it, exactly. As I say, for some reason, I'm persona non grata. I don't know what it is. But, the questions have been
maybe you were doing the team talks, Cammy. They're sitting brilliantly now. They're in third spot with 26 points. East Kilbride just 2 points ahead of them at the top of the league, and Spartans are sitting in second. Now, this time last year, it was a bit doom and gloom with Clyde, but I'll tell you what, a healthy start we've had this year. You know, you look at some of the other teams in that, and I'll tell you what will be an interesting one. It's coming up at the end of the month or end of January, or middle of January maybe. Camelin Juniors have got Elgin City.
I'll go with that.
Sitting in fifth spot. That'll be a right cup tie game. That they've got to come down from Elgin. That'll be unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't like try and predict that one. Well,
see, I was there for the game against Edinburgh City when Camelin obviously got through. They're a decent side, you know, as I say, plucky, typical junior side, you know, plucky, a bit physical, and Edinburgh City just couldn't cope, you know, and that was it. And as I say, Camelin Juniors were definitely worthy of their wins. So yeah, I'll definitely be at that game, I think.
Be good.
Along, because as I say, I think I'll thoroughly enjoy that, you know. So moving away from Scotland, we'll move down south. Obviously, some smashing results down there, and we've taken the Premier League results from last weekend. Chelsea 2, Everton 0, Liverpool 2, Brighton 0. Ekatike getting both goals, and I had them on the bench in my fantasy team, so that was me snookered out there. Burnley 2, Fulham 3. Arsenal 2, Wolves 1. Now, Arsenal left that very, very late, and I think they get the winner 4 minutes into injury time. You know, and that's against the side who are bottom of the table. When we look at the games on the Sunday, Crystal Palace 0, Man City 3, Forest 3, Spurs 0. Sunderland with an own goal won the Tyne-Wear Derby. First one is in the top league for Christ knows how long, so they won that 1-0. West Ham 2, Villa 3. And Brentford 1, Leeds 1. And then the Monday night, what a game this was. End-to-end, topsy-turvy game. Man United 4, Bournemouth 4. You know, and that was backwards and forwards. 1 minute Man United were winning, then it was Bournemouth were winning. And that was an absolute outstanding game of football. A great advert for what happens in the Premier League. And that leaves the English Premier League, basically Arsenal, clear at the top of Manchester City.
Yeah.
And as I say, Wolves starting to get caught adrift at the bottom. You know,
Wolves are doomed. I mean, even at this time of the year, they're sitting there with 2 points after 16 games. I mean, that just doesn't bear any resemblance to the way they've been the last few years. Burnley, I think the boy Parker, I watched a bit of their last game, and I'm surprised he's still there. Absolutely shocking. They've got 10 points, though, but it means nothing in real terms. They have got no future if they keep with the same personnel in my eyes at this moment in time. West Ham, Have they really gone anywhere since they get rid of Graham Potter and Billy Reid?
Yeah.
Don't think so. They've not really put a dent in anything. Leeds, where you would maybe have thought they would have done better. This is the bottom, for the bottom upwards I'm going. Sitting in 17th spot. Above them, Notts Forest, then Brentford, Fulham, Bournemouth. Bournemouth's having a right good season. And you just mentioned that draw with Man United. They've got a never say die attitude, which is really good about them. And in fact, they had a good season last year in my eyes, and they've done really well. That's sitting in 13th. The two teams that have been disappointing, and you were expected better, is Newcastle United sitting on 12th, and 11th spot is Tottenham.
Yeah.
I mean, Steve Hitchen, who comes on here, he's a Tottenham supporter. And when we were speaking this afternoon, he says, something, it's such a hard watch, I'm turning it off now.
Yeah.
Now, they said they're so bad that you wouldn't believe it. Now, what are they going to do? Are they going to change managers again as well? So they're two disappointing teams. You've got other teams in there. Everton's doing well. Brighton's doing well. Sunderland exceptionally well for where they are. Liverpool, are they going to resolve the Mo Salah thing? We had this conversation a couple of weeks ago, Cammy.
Well, he's away at the applications.
I know that. Do you think he'll be back?
I think so. He played at the weekend.
Yeah. I keep saying that he's, every striker goes off the boil. If he can just, knuckle down and get on with the job that he's paid to do, I think he'll come back. It'll be interesting to see how well he does in the African nations.
Yeah.
That'll be worthwhile,
Yeah.
Man United sitting up in 6th spot with 26 points, and Arsenal are 10 points ahead of them. Crystal Palace doing exceptionally well, sitting in 5th. Chelsea in 4th. Then Aston Villa again. Great season last year. They're doing it this year as well.
Started absolutely dreadfully, and they are the fourth side in that league, because I think they lost their 4 games, and they've been
last half dozen. Yeah, last half dozen they've won.
Yeah, I think by the way, I think it's something like 10 wins in a bounce, and then if you European games as well, they're doing exceptionally well. They've. I mean, I think again they started the season a wee bit late. It's very difficult if you lose your first 4 games, but to get up to 3rd spot. I mean, Chelsea have looked decent. Chelsea have played some good football. Enjoyed watching Arsenal, as I said, difficult side to beat. And again, that never say die attitude for Arteta. They'll keep going. They don't know they're beat. But Man City, I think going to Selhurst Park on Sunday and getting a 3-0 victory against Palace. Munoz got injured, I think, in that game, so he kind of struggled. And the big boy up front, Mateta, I think he got a knock as well, but Man City looked exceptional. So
they need Haaland, though. Again, it's back to the big boy as being a striker. He's on fire, and that is worth its weight in gold, because I keep saying it. We're talking here, and we look at the Celtic and the Rangers team. They've not got a centre forward that's worthy of a goal. Kenny misses 4 good chances in the first half. Rangers at the other side of the town. Guy doesn't even look as if he knows what the goals are for. Then you look down in England and you see, wow, half a chance it's in the back of the net. So that is a massive difference when you talk top flight football. It's funny though, because you mentioned Chelsea there, and you just look at how long it's taken them to turn things around from where they were really struggling big time. That's about 3 years now, Cammy. So you look at it and you say to yourself, is it going to be 3 years for all the teams that look as if they're struggling before they get back to a level that's expected? Tottenham is a prime example. I still don't think Manchester United are where they should be quality-wise. They have improved, but it's so slow. You would think, would you go and watch that every week? Man United were always the team I always felt you'd go and pay money to watch. No, I don't know so much.
I think Amorim's getting them to be a good watch, and that's going to be an absolute cracker on Sunday. Villa against United, that should be an absolute cracking. So I mean, I think Man United are slowly starting to get there. As I say, they've got, and Bueno's been a good signing. Obviously, the striker up front, the boy they brought in for Wolves, he's been a good sign. They've made the change in between the sticks as well. I mean, a really young goalkeeper there too. So I think they're looking to try and strengthen, build a bit of a spine, right through the middle of the side. And I think that the difference is, something tells me the Man United board obviously they've given Mirren the season anyway, but I say there was a lot of shouts for him to go last season. They stuck with him. They gave him money, to strengthen his squad, bring in his own players. And I think, as I says to you, that this time last season, I think he's a good manager, and I think things will turn for him. And slowly but surely, that's happened. You give him a couple of windows just to bring in his own players, and I think you'll definitely see a Manchester United side. You're saying it took Chelsea three seasons. This is Enzo Maresca's second season in charge there. So I think
maybe that's what we need. Maybe that the reason we're highlighting this is Manchester United, after 6 months, could easily, and that's 6 months, that's a long period in relation to the start he had when he came in, right? We're now debating that about the old firm managers. It's easy to get rid of managers, and it's 10 times harder to replace them with better than what you had. And I know Rangers and Celtic have let managers go that weren't fit for purpose, and I totally agree with that. But if Rangers and Celtic at this moment in time think they'll get the right guys in, then I keep going back to it. You've got to give them to at least the January window shut.
Yeah. And
let's see what they can do. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a situation that will never improve. And when you start afresh, you'll get that cycle. I know it's English Premiership we're talking about with Chelsea with 3 years before they start to look any better. But you're going to find that you're starting again. You're starting again. You're starting again.
Yeah.
And you're losing so much traction on the league and your performances in Europe if you're in there. Whereas Man United, as you rightly say, have held on to him, and they're coming out the other end of it for the better.
Yeah.
And that's the real difficult part. Has Rangers and Celtic got the ability to do that? Because I think the demands in Scotland are higher in expectations for the old firm, because it's two teams that are really under pressure to make sure that they are winning regularly. That's against, you can hear it down south. There's teams there and they can get beaten, and the supporters are a wee bit more placid. Up here, they're wild.
They're nuts.
You know what I mean?
You highlighted West Ham. How many times have West Ham changed their boss? They get a new manager in every 6 months, every 4 or 5 months. And
hey, look back, David Moyes won them a cup. David Moyes won them a cup and they bumped him.
Yeah.
Postecoglou won them a cup. They bumped him. Now, I'm not saying they were right, but there should have been an element there to say, well, wait a minute. What more do we want? What more do we expect? You don't have a divine right to go and win leagues when other teams are setting at their stall to beat you. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you just have to bite the bullet maybe and say, well, I'll tell you what, we might be mid-season this year, but see our infrastructure and the way we're looking at going forward, we'll be up challenging the following year.
Yeah.
That doesn't, within boardrooms, seem to be working. As soon as, Postecoglou at Tottenham was just a prime example. At Forest. I thought that was shocking. What did he get? 5 games?
7.
7?
I think he lost his first 7 games and they bumped him. And by the way, Sean Dyche has turned things around a wee bit. As I say, that was with a 3-0 victory against Spurs at the weekend there as well. But I mean, look at some of these fixtures down south over the weekend. You get Newcastle, Chelsea at 12:30. You then flip that a wee bit of muchness. Bournemouth against Burnley. No one of these games that you're going to pay a lot of money to go and watch. Brighton against Sunderland. Sunderland, a really, really difficult side to break down. Brighton, not necessarily the most attacking side going forward. They don't look as if they've not got many goals in them. If Welbeck or that doesn't get a goal, they kind of struggle. Yeah. I like Minter out in the right, but I don't think that again could be a 1-0 to the one each game. Man City against West Ham, City 4 or 5 goals in that one easy. Wolves against Brentford, got to fancy Brentford in that because Rob Edwards made a massive blunder to leave Middlesbrough and go to Wolves. What an absolute heinous mistake that was, and he deserves everything he's getting at Molineux, you know, because he walked out on Middlesbrough and deserves every single thing that he's getting there. You know, good luck. Absolute clown of a man. Spurs against Liverpool, 5:30 tomorrow night. What a great game that should be. Everton against Arsenal, 8 o'clock tomorrow. And Leeds against Palace. Again, I'm not sure about the times on that one because that's basically 2 live games on Sky tomorrow. I very much doubt that one. So they might be cocked up with the fixtures there, you know. But Leeds against Palace, again, that should be a cracking game. I love watching Crystal Palace. You know, I think they're really
the two games are on at 8 o'clock.
Aye, is that right enough?
Yeah, you confirm it. Yeah. Well, one will be on the television. The other one might not.
So that's it. But as I say, that's maybe where Google Gemini's not 100%. And by Christ, it took me long enough to get them. And then, as we say on the Sunday, you've got Villa against Man United. You know, another absolute storming game. You know, so that should be an absolute
game. Yeah, absolute brilliant. If you want to sit in for the weekend, there's plenty there to watch. And of course, when you take in the Sunday matches, you've got Rangers and Hearts. Or Hearts and Rangers? That's a topic as well. So you know, Sunday's got plenty of entertainment football-wise. I just find it so difficult sometimes to actually just sit and concentrate on them when there's so many games that are attractive. And then obviously coming up the way you're back to Champions League stuff again. So there's a lot of good football about. And it's easy to actually pick faults and everything. I'm just hoping that you don't want Aberdeen to lose because I think we need them to be picking up points in the Premier League. But on the other side, you don't want to see Celtic slipping even further down, and the manager then gets a bullet, and we're not getting a chance to see if he has got the ability to actually do anything in January. I really want to see him, see what he can bring to the table, because at this moment in time, I think he doesn't do anything for me. There's nothing I can see that he's bringing to the party that says he should have been appointed in the first place, right? Oh. Somebody must have seen something to be raving about him and bringing him in. There must be something there that we're not seeing, Cammy. So maybe it's that he's having to work with players that are just not good enough, right? But I can't see. I think when he left America, he'd lost the last half dozen games before he left.
Yeah.
So you look at that, you say to yourself, well, what kind of player and caliber was he managing to begin with? I don't think they'll be as good as the Premier League. And I don't think they will. The pressures on the American managers over there will be anywhere near what it's like. So, I mean, let's hope that something could work out. Maybe a draw, Aberdeen doing okay, Celtic getting something that maybe gives a wee bit light at the end of the tunnel. The guy gets an opportunity, and we get into January. And the same in the other side of the town, where Rangers can get something out of the Hearts. For me, from looking at it from the outside in, both teams, Celtic and Rangers, drawing against Hearts. It will give them a wee bit more enthusiasm. Hearts have not lost much ground. Celtic drawing with Aberdeen. And let's see the turn of the year where it stays a bit like that and the two managers get the opportunity to see what they can bring in. I can't see any other way that things will work out any better than that, Cammy, because it'll keep changing. It's just going to be the same thing, and there'll be more pressure on anybody that comes in, either to Parkhead or Ibrox, because the pressure's building. It's a pressure pot now.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Well, pretty much we can only see what happens at the weekend, but as you say, there's a hell of a lot of sport, a hell of a lot of football on the telly. I've got an American football game tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as well, so I better sort of bolt off of here, go and try and get some brownie points for the missus, because I've got that tomorrow night, and we've got a game on Christmas Day as well, you know, so I'm definitely not going to be flavour of the month. No, fair play to her. She's giving me every minute to watch that tomorrow night and the one on Christmas Day. As I've said to you before, I'm spending Christmas Day on my own because I'm going to be sitting for 4 o'clock in the afternoon watching that game. So there's no many misses would let their man do that. So fair play to her, that's for sure.
Maybe it tells you something as well.
Well, that's that exactly. It probably does, you know, to be fair, it probably does. But yeah, listen, there we are. So there you go, Dennis.
You get the Santa Claus stuff up. Very good, Cammy. That looks good. Over Christmas, you can practice on this. That's brilliant. Yeah. Should have had that on earlier.
I did debate it, you know what I mean? So that's it. But I didn't fancy the idea of stalking there above my head, you know, and that snowman just doesn't suit you there either. But anyway, let's listen.
Anyway,
everybody who is listening, have a Merry Christmas. I hope Santa Claus is good to you. Have a very, very happy New Year. As I say, Dennis and I will be back in the new year, 2 weeks from tonight. It doesn't seem like it's that close already, Dennis, does it indeed? You know, but as I say,
Friday the 9th. Friday the 9th of January.
Friday the 9th. So Dennis and I will be back then. We'll see how things go over the festive period. As we say, there is a lot of football on, but come back to us Friday the 9th, because as we all know, everything is happening on the pitch. All that remains to be seen, Dennis, is say good night to you. So good night.
Yes, good night, and you have a lovely time as well, Cammy.
Have a Merry Christmas and a very